On today's video podcast, we're going to be talking about the 5 psychological tricks that you need to learn so that you don't keep on falling for scams and losing your money. This is the 5 guys. Let's get started. So, Dominic, on Monday, we went ahead and talked about, really 13 of the largest psychological tendencies, mind maps, cognitive biases that we all have and we all fall biased to nowadays. And especially with the advent of AI, we're seeing that these biases are becoming even more pronounced and they're getting even worse and worse to try to fight against. So in order for us to be able to keep more of our money, to pursue the path of financial independence, we need to be aware of these biases, because if we don't even know there's a problem, it's going to be pretty hard to fix that.
Yeah, you got that right. I mean, everything happens in the mind and how you look at it, how do you react on it. So if we can kind of shift how we react on it, we can probably set ourselves up for quite a bit better of a life, I would assume, and I would hope.
I would hope so, yeah. Yeah. So on Monday's podcast, if you guys haven't listened, go ahead and take a listen back. We went over the 13 of the 25 cognitive biases that Charlie Munger talked about in his book, Poor Charlie's Almanac, and also in his psychological biases that everyone needs to overcome. This is a mental model that he came up with. But today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our 5 top takeaways from Monday's podcast. And if you want to collect all 13 of them that we talked about, please go back and listen to there. But today's going to be a review episode. We're going to talk about our top 5 that we really enjoyed. After that, we'll get into the viewer mailbag. We have a really great one today. Pretty sad, but we'll get into it. And then after that, we'll finish off with win of the week, where we're going to talk to you about, our wins of the week.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. So do you want to go first on which bias was your favorite?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first. My first bias I want to talk about is actually the first bias we talked about, which is reward and punishment bias. But what I like to call this is incentive tendency. So everyone is motivated to do something where they gain from it, whether that be money, recognition, good feelings, but that also works the opposite way. We're also motivated to avoid punishment, whether that be getting yelled at, feeling bad, getting hit, whatever it is. So if you show me someone's incentives, I will show you the outcome.
Yeah, I like that one. That one's a good one. It's a solid one to start off with. I can't deny it. You know, the power of incentives. You know, I love a good incentive. I mean, why do anything if you're not going to do something for a good incentive? Unless you're doing something good for someone else, I don't think you should, do good things and seek things in return,
I would argue that even when we do things for other people, we're still seeking that good feeling. Mm-hmm. Like you're still looking for that reward of that good feeling.
Yeah.
Because in truth, doing something for someone else is actually inherently quite selfish, because it makes you feel a lot better than it did them.
Yeah. Wait till you film it and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you'll see how good, how it makes you feel. Lord. Just quick. I'm curious, since we're on the quick digress, 60 seconds. How do you feel about people doing good deeds, but filming them and then putting them on YouTube? Genuine or inspiring?
A little bit of A, a little bit of B.
Fair. Yeah.
I would think it's so. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say, what's the outcome that they're searching for? Are they really just trying to spread good vibes and try to really pass it forward, show that? Then yeah, I would say always good. But if they're trying to do that, and then when you go to their website, it's schedule a coaching call with me on how to, I don't know, be a better person or something like that, then we have then it's a different view, and it's just that slight thing. Mm-hmm. We can all rewards and punishment and really incentive bias in all places. Think about people who have end of the year bonuses. Those end of the year bonuses aren't often just because you showed up every day. It's because you went above and beyond to meet your quotas. So and if you were to take that bonus away, most people are going to stop. So recently, my wife, we talked about this before, she was offered an ownership position in her company. And after a long amount of time, we talked about it. And my wife decided, I really like my life right now. While this may come with more money, it also comes with a lot more responsibility and a lot more time away from home and all this other stuff. And we decided it wasn't right for us. But one of my wife's good friends actually ended up taking that role. And she took on that role of leadership. And now she moved away from being an hourly employee to being a full salaried employee. So my wife, she is salary, but she has a production plus salary. So she can make more money if she's seeing more rooms, being more productive, making more money. But my wife's friend who took on this other role, she no longer gets that. She gets revenue from the hospital, and she's salary and revenue from the hospital. And my wife, she's also able to pick up additional shifts. and every additional shift that they pay you, they have an incentive bonus because there's so few doctors in the world, or veterinarians, that they were paying people upwards of $300 to $500 for every additional shift that they picked up, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
When my wife's friend took on the ownership role, she expected the exact same thing. She understood she was salary, but she was still saying, like, but if I pick up extra shifts that I wasn't going to pick up, then I still should get that bonus, right? Well, eventually the company came out and said, you're no longer going to get the bonus, owners, for coming in and working hard. But what you will get is, if you continue to do well, then then the company will make more money, and then you'll make more money that way. So when we actually ended up doing the math, her and I, when we sat down, we found that had she worked an additional like 5 shifts, she would have got 500 plus 500 plus 500 plus 500 plus 500, which would have been $2,500.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, she didn't end up bonusing, but her company came back to her and said, hey, had you worked those extra shifts, you would have actually bonused $500. So the incentive for her is completely mismatched. Why would she work 5 extra shifts where she could have made $25 additional $100 plus her normal salary? Once they took away the incentive of her to get those extra bonuses and said, had you worked all those days and you were super productive and everything worked perfectly, you could have got $500. They shot themselves in the foot. But they thought, like, well, we're telling you this, so you should work harder. But once we're able to like actually take a step back, look at the bias that they're trying to talk about there, and also say, like, your time, your 5 days of work is worth more than $500 to you, to her, to everyone in life. So look at the biases, look at the rewards, look at the incentives. If you understand the incentives of any person, you understand the outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a wild one. What a concept. Well, I'm glad that she made the right decision, your wife made the right decision, and decided not to take on the extra work for less pay.
Who knows? Maybe my wife's friend's going to make more money because the hospital become more profitable. She'll make more money while she sleeps that way. But right now, it doesn't seem like the best of situations. But this tendency can get really difficult, right? When it comes to incentive tendency, because a lot of con men, you can't really tell what their incentive is. Their reward, their punishment, you don't understand. And that's where it gets really difficult to understand, like, what is this person actually going after? So what I always say is, if you don't understand someone's incentives, be super cautious. You should already be cautious once you know their incentives, because now you know at least what they're going for. But if you have zero idea what their incentives are, that's when you really need to be pretty cautious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if they are asking of something of you. If they're just giving away free information or something like that, that's something very different. But if they're asking something from you and you still don't understand why they're doing that, be careful, be cautious, tread lightly there.
Tread very lightly.
Because they could be setting you up for something else.
Could be the long con.
You
never know. So yours was number 1, reward and punishment tendency. Makes sense. Now we both chose a few of them. So my first one is number 8, bias number 8. Envy and jealousy tendency. Oof, it was Warren Buffett that said, is not greed that drives the world, but envy. I know we talked a little bit about on Monday's podcast, the difference between greed and envy. Very similar. They come from the same hole in your heart, possibly, but they're very similar, right? Greed is something like, I want it. I want more of it. I can't get enough of it, right? Envy is, you have it and I want it and I want it, I want all of it, you know? So they're very similar. They come from the same spot. Here in America, I think this is definitely one of our bigger problems. Obviously, it's not the biggest. We've got so many damn problems here, but it's definitely an issue here in America with all the capitalism, with the consumerism, with all that fun stuff, you know, the sales, I mean, being pushed down our throats to buy. Don't worry about the future. Just buy. And, you know, record profits for corporations and whatnot. This is a tough one. You got to recognize when you're being envious, when you're being jealous, you know, and greedy. You know, I know we're a financial podcast, and oftentimes I think this is Warren Buffett that said it, but many people have said it before. But, you know, the ones who get greedy are the ones who get slaughtered, right? You know, Berkshire Hathaway, we know the great Warren Buffett, we know the great Charlie Munger. Apparently there was a third guy. Apparently there's a third guy. We might do a podcast on him.
Yeah, Rick Guyanan, I think his name was.
Yeah, Rick from nowhere. We don't know where he's from. Part of the dynamic trio. But unfortunately, he got greedy and he got cleaned out. right? And if you know Warren Buffett's and Charlie Munger's story, it's the story of the tortoise, not the hare, right? I don't know about you, but they kind of look like tortoises too in my eyes. I don't know why, they just look like turtles to me.
I definitely see it with Charlie.
Yeah, they're turtles. We love turtles. Oh man, I love turtles. That just reminded me of that meme. I like turtles. Anyway, stupid things in my mind. But yeah, no. Keeping up with the Joneses is really going to keep you down in the slumps. You know, you can't be playing a game. You can't be playing somebody else's game. You got to play your own game. And the best way to do that is to know where your finish line is. And most people in America, they don't have a finish line. They don't have a goal. They just see what, literally the Joneses next door are doing. Wow, they just got a new Escalade. Wow, that's amazing. And you see it a lot of times weirdly enough, you see it a lot of times in impoverished communities, right? You drive around, you see the homes. They're not nice homes, right? They're low income. There's, maybe people parked on the lawn. Like you can tell, right? When you drive through this neighborhood, it's like it's not the best neighborhood. But for some reason, they got a Mercedes in the driveway. They got an Escalade. They got nice cars, right? And it's like a hive mind. It's like wow, look at these guys. How are they doing it? I want to get a nice car too. And it's like you're putting yourself in a bad situation. So I definitely want to be very cautious when dealing with envy and jealousy and greed as well. It can get you in a lot of trouble. And it can be very hard to recover from.
Yeah. The other day I was actually taking my dogs on a bike ride and I passed a guy who was driving a Hellcat, like very, very nice, expensive cars. And he pulled over when I was riding and he pulled over like a few houses in front of me and he got out of the Hellcat and he had on like the Amazon stuff and he was delivering Amazon packages in a Hellcat.
Really?
And what my immediate thought was, is this guy purchased a car that he can't afford and now he's trying to figure out how he's going to make the payment for the car. Because if you're someone who's buying that nice of a car, you shouldn't have to be also, you're spending money that you don't have to have that car. That's the only reason that you're going to be delivering Amazon packages at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. That must have been one loud delivery truck. Hot tamales. Holy crap.
It was quite loud. That's why I heard it coming from a mile away. But envy is so difficult. And it's really difficult nowadays because unfortunately our whole generation, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, all of them, we have a lot of envy over the baby boomers. And I understand why. It's because the baby boomers have all the money and they're hoarding a lot of the money because they're in a different stage of life. They're not in the stage of life that we are where we're trying to spend money. Their biggest fear for boomers is dying without their money. So they're going to hoard it because you would do the exact same thing too. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, they feel so much fear. And the reason that we feel this envy is because we feel that there is a scarce resource. We feel that money is a scarce resource. And money, unfortunately, is not a scarce resource, given that people are willing to allow it to flow freely. But when people dam up that by saying, I'm not going to spend money, then it becomes scarce.
Yeah.
And, the world is moving into a really weird place in that we all want to have more money. And we know that the Federal Reserve has printed money. And yet the average person isn't seeing that money go anywhere because it's flowing to corporations. It's flowing to other people and it's making the rich even richer. So you're seeing, wow, my stocks might be going up. My 1K balance is going up. But in relation to that, so is the prices of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not probably going to talk about it too much, but if you actually look at the stock market, the S&P 500, which is hitting all record highs every single day, it's recently taken some tumbles and whatnot. But if you actually do an adjusted basis for how much inflation has happened since 2008 to now, the market actually hasn't increased at all. The only reason it increased is because we pumped more money into the system. And who did that money flow to? It flowed to people who owned assets. But if you're the person who is living paycheck to paycheck, you don't own those assets and you aren't participating. And that is why it feels so fundamentally unfair. And you know that there's something wrong and people are telling you that everything is going well, but you know that there's something wrong. So you're freaking the hell out. You're getting envy. You're getting jealousy because you're searching after this resource that you feel is scarce when in actuality it is not. But the reason that it's not scarce, or the reason that it feels scarce, is because the people that have it are hoarding it.
Yep. That's exactly it. Yeah. It's so easy. It's so easy. Like Chris said, it's so easy to be envious. And there's just no positive to it. It's just a dark emotion. It's it's not like, some emotions like sadness and anger, you can use those. You can use those to motivate yourself, make yourself. Envy it's just pure darkness. There's no good that can come out of it, and you can really do damage to your self-worth. And that's not even something we really talked about too much, but when you're envious, your self-worth takes a friggin' plummet.
Yeah.
Takes a complete
I
plummet.
think it was actually Charlie Munger who said that envy is the stupidest of the 7 deadly sins, because at least with the other 6, you get something that feels good.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Yeah. That's masterfully put from the tortoise. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know, sorry, I'm a big fan of comic books. So, Green
That great movie, The Green Lantern. Yeah.
not the movie, God no, but the Green Lantern, the comic book. So
Yes,
there's
I'm aware.
everyone knows that Green Lantern has hope. That's his power ring. But then there's also the blue lanterns, the red lanterns, the white lanterns, the pink lanterns, and the orange lanterns. And I think there's actually like 2 other, the white and black lanterns. But there's the orange lantern, and there's only one orange lantern left. And the orange lantern is greed. And the reason that there's only one orange lantern left is that orange lantern killed all of the other lanterns, other orange lanterns, in order to hoard all of their rings. And now he's eternally alone with his pile of rings, kind of like Gollum is, at the beginning of The Hobbit.
Kind of like Gollum. Oh man, that's a good reference. That's a good reference. That's a good reference. Yeah, I haven't read too much of the comic books, and I've heard that the movie is widely hated, so I haven't seen that since it came out. But
most DC movies aren't worth watching, but the comics are great. Should I say move on to my next favorite bias, which is inconsistency bias? So inconsistency bias is, I think, one of the hardest ones because we're reluctant to change our habits. So if you're someone that tells yourself, like, I'm just not a fit person, you're going to manifest that reality into the world. And I'm not very big into manifestation or any of that other BS. But if you keep on telling yourself that this is the way things are, you're never going to prompt yourself to change. Your thoughts really do dictate your reality in this.
Yeah, they really do. I like that. Your thoughts dictate your reality. I think we should talk a little bit more about that to let that really sink in. Your thoughts dictate your reality. I read our viewer mailbag beforehand, and this guy's thoughts are definitely dictating his reality. And what's really sad about it is his thoughts are dictating he's manifesting his thoughts into reality, and it's becoming his world, and he believes it. Like we talk about on the podcast all the time. You can choose to believe whatever you want to believe, but careful what you choose to believe, because your mind doesn't know the difference.
And the most important thing is, whatever I believe, is it serving me? Because our thoughts become our habits, and our habits become our reality. But sometimes it's really hard to change our thoughts. So what we need to do is we need to change our habits so that our habits begin to change our thoughts. And then our thoughts and our habits will change our reality to move us in the right way. So much of being good with finances has nothing to do with numbers. Has nothing to do with knowing what stock to buy, which ETF, which portfolio, which whatever. It has to do with your mindset and saying that I can be financially free. I can do these things. I understand it's going to take work. I understand that, but it's figure outable because other people who are not as smart as me have figured it out before me. But what I need to do is stop looking for the secret BS that someone's trying to sell me, and just start working hard every day, put my head down, make more money, spend less money than I'm making, and invest the difference. Over a long enough timeline, you will win.
I think that's what people don't want to hear, over a long enough timeline. Like, no, people want things now these days. They want it quick. Anything that's usually good isn't quick or long lasting, So yeah, I mean, it's like you said, the inconsistency and avoidancency. I mean, it's in the name. It's just in the name.
And this one's probably one of the worst ones, because once you start telling yourself something, if you start believing it and you start acting that way, it's going to become the way that you think. So much of it is mindset. And that's why I really enjoy having the podcast, is because we can make public declarations to not only ourselves, but to our listeners too, and say, this is what we're going to do. And then not only do we want to remain consistent to ourselves to feel good, but we also want to remain consistent to other people. And we can think about where this comes from evolutionarily, this consistency paradox. If you're someone who constantly says you're going to do something but doesn't, eventually you're going to get kicked out of the tribe. And when you're alone, that's when people die.
Yeah.
So the reason that we don't want to be a flip-flopper, and I think it's okay to be a flip-flopper, right? There's always a dichotomy. If you learn, it's okay to be wrong, but it's not okay to stay wrong. But that's just why you'll see someone who makes a stance saying, I'm going to stick to this investment, and they make a public declaration of it. And now, in order to remain consistent, when the thesis goes against them and they realize that they're wrong, they have trouble changing because they made a declaration and they want to remain consistent as a human being. So there's always a balance here that you want to remain consistent until that consistency is no longer serving you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to take anything away from today's podcast, it's like, is your thoughts serving you? Is your action serving you? But honestly though, what are you hoping to get out of life? Because you could say, I have no purpose, Chris. I'm just here. Having that donut served me. I enjoyed it, man. Having that pizza served me. Being jealous, all this whatever served me. Like, it's almost like, we're this is not beginner stage stuff, but it is in the beginning stages. You got to find, I'm not saying purpose as in, I want to be the best electrician. Maybe that is your purpose. I don't know. But I know for Chris and I and myself, we just want to be better than we were yesterday, better than we were last year. And it just constantly improve. So that way, when we look back on our life, we don't have any regrets. We don't have any, distaste about how we lived our life. We lived it to the fullest. And running your life through something like that, does it get me closer to my end goal or further away? And I heard that actually recently on how like Elon Musk makes his decisions. And he basically runs all of his decisions through, it's like, is this going to get us closer to Mars, or is this going to get us further from Mars? Right. I always thought that was so interesting. And it can be as simple as that for us, small humans.
For us mere mortals, though, but for our mere mortals, it's knowing what is enough, or what's your actual goal. And most people don't actually know what their goal is. Like I do financial planning, I do financial coaching. When I ask someone, what's your goal? They're like, I don't know, to retire. And you go, okay, what do you do in retirement? I don't know. I'm retired. We have to dig down deeper and deeper and deeper. And then most of the time what we find out is they can be living their retirement right now. But since they don't know what their goal is, they don't know where even to move towards.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I gotta say, guys, like, I know it's a finance podcast. It's a lot about philosophy, a lot about the mind in today's pod, but don't forget, like, just because you're working, don't forget to like go out and like live, find yourself, find what you enjoy. Like Chris was talking about, he'll set up a financial plan for someone when they want to retire, and it's like, well, what do you want to do in retirement? It's like, well, I don't know. Well, who are you? Like, because I know, like, if Chris were to retire, I already know what he would do, right? He would do jujitsu. He would go on hikes.
I'm doing it now. Exactly. I'm already doing it.
And really, I don't know if Chris would retire because he enjoys to work, and we both share the philosophy to retire is to expire. So I know if Chris had all the time in the world, he'd probably just be learning, soaking in more knowledge, training, just becoming a better version of himself, right? And that's obvious to me because I know him, right? So I think it's super important to know thyself, and really find out what you want to be in life, find out who you want to be, and just rather than planning for it, take one step at a time and just become that person. It doesn't just like happen. You just gotta, it's like one step at a time. You gradually get there.
Yeah, you don't wake up being the person that you want to be. No. You have to grind at it. It's not going to happen one day. I think it's, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but knowing what enough is for you. Like, what is your enough? I think I've told this story before, but there was Diogenes, who was a Stoic philosopher who was once met by Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great stood next to Diogenes while he was bathing in the sun. And Diogenes said, please move, you're in my sun. And Alexander said, do you know who I am? I'm the man who conquered the world. And Diogenes responded to him, that's good for you, but I'm the man who conquered the need to conquer the world. And it was on Alexander's deathbed that he said, if he couldn't be Alexander, he would rather be Diogenes. Because rather than being the person that conquered the world and died of syphilis in campaign, would you rather be that or be the person who never needed to do that, never had to prove anything to anyone, who had enough and was comfortable with that?
Yeah.
I think, and this is going to seem a little silly, but the time that you can say that you are financially independent has nothing to do with numbers. It has to do when your wants surpass your needs. Because most people, we go through life with our needs surpassing our wants. We always need, with our wants surpassing our needs. We always want more. We want more, want more, want more. But the moment that our needs surpass our wants, and we have enough wants, but we don't need anything else, we're finally like financially independent because we have all that we need, and we're not striving. We're not striving for more things. We're striving for better us, better internal feelings. Because I think the only thing that really matters in this life is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And if you're happy with that person, then you're good. If you're not happy with that person, you start to seek other things to make you happy about it. And unfortunately, what we end up seeking due to the society that we're in is stuff. If we seek the right stuff, we'll finally be happy with who we are. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you that it's a farce, and you're never going to get the right stuff to finally feel happy, because they're two completely separate things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. We're going to move on to our next one. This one was for me. This is bias number 12. This is excess self-regard tendency. Excess self-regard tendency. If you don't know what that's all about, let me explain a little bit. So it's basically thinking that, we all think that we're above average. We're smarter, more attractive, more persuasive than anyone else. As an entrepreneur, you're probably going to have those tendencies. Basically overconfidence, right? And sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need that delusional courage. Sometimes you don't. I think oftentimes it's good to have delusional courage for brief moments in your life, but to have it for your whole life might be unhealthy. What do you think about that, Chris?
I think you're exactly right. I think it was Charlie Munger that once said that you don't have to be the smartest person in the world. You just have to be more consistent with a longer time.
Yeah. And that's a man who practiced what he preached. I mean, he didn't say anything that he hasn't been doing for the last 80 years, right? Rest in peace. But
nearly 100 years.
100, yeah, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, dude.
He lived a good life. He died at 99, like 2 weeks before his 100th birthday.
Not gonna lie, that'd bug me. I mean, I'd be dead, but still, I'd be like, I was so close.
So close.
I was so close. Send me back. I just give it like 2 more weeks. Yeah. But yeah, this is where like a lot of problems can come from this, right? A lot of financial ruins, a lot of grass is greener. Even if you're in a relationship, you think you're more attractive than you are. You think you're valued more than you are. I don't need you. You break up and you go see where the grass is greener. You're like, oh wow, I am not as hot as I thought I was. Not as charismatic. Not as cool as a cucumber. And for people who suffer with excessive self-regard, oftentimes when life does hit them, it hits them quite hard. Because you've been living in such a delusional state, such a farce, really, dude, it's tough. It's tough. And I won't deny this. I've been in this position. You come back from the gym.
We all have been.
We all have, right? And it feels good. I won't deny this. You fresh out of the gym, fresh pump, maybe a new PR. I don't know. You got a nice tight shirt on, some good looking shorts, pants. You're looking good. You're feeling good. You know what I'm talking about. You're like, dude, I know I'm not the biggest guy in here, but I feel like the biggest guy in here. I feel like the big cheese, King Queso, I feel bigger than I am. I feel smart, I feel more, right? And I'm not saying that's 100% a bad thing. I think it's important for you to have moments of, I am great. I am strong. I am making strides. I'm stronger than I was yesterday. I'm stronger than I was last year. I think that's super important. You got to have progress. Without progress, that's when burnout happens, right? And we don't want that. So, I mean, suffering with excessive self-regard, it's something I struggle with. I won't deny this. I struggle with this. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else to add on this one, Chris?
No, I mean, I used to struggle with this. And this is really where ego is the enemy. Like your ego is the thing that's going to get you killed. And, if you're someone who has a big ego, and I think a lot about this, like because I also do jujitsu coaching, right? So from the jujitsu coaching standpoint, it's like you go in there, you're the new white belt, you're like, I can fight. Like I can fight. Like, don't worry. I'm going to see red and I'm going to win. And then you roll against someone like me or against somebody else who just smacks you down and like isn't even breaking a sweat to destroy you. And it breaks a lot of people. It breaks a lot of people where they're like, their whole world has been made on this lie of like, I can do this. And then they have to go out into the world and try to prove to themselves that they're strong. So they are hyper aggressive, all these things. And, it's a common farce, but the person that is good at jiu-jitsu, a good fighter, good UFC, they're super humble because they realize that they don't need that anymore. They have surpassed that ego that they need. They don't need to think that they're the smartest, the best, because in all honesty, when you do fight against somebody for real, when you actually do roll with somebody for real, you realize that all of your preconceived notions of how great you are is all wrong. And while you might be able to beat some people, there is some guy out there or some gal out there who can destroy you in a heartbeat. And you don't know who that person is. So rather than thinking that you're the best, you just think, I probably suck and I'm not going to even test it. But statistically, you know that if you did test it, you're probably going to win. Mm-hmm. But why even test it? Why put yourself in that situation?
Yeah. I think every boy and young man definitely thinks if they got in a fight, they would win. Nobody like if you
no one gets in a fight with the thought of I'm definitely gonna lose this.
Yo, because you suck. And like me knowing he's gonna beat me up, like I must be a maniac. I must be a lunatic. Like who does that? That makes no sense.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Pure masochism. Like, I love pure it. Masochism. Hit me harder.
Yep. More. Do it. Yeah. So it's definitely throwing yourself in the fire and throwing yourself in the fire of truth will definitely reset how you see yourself and how you see life, right? I'm not saying it's a bad thing to think you're smart. It's a good thing to think you're smart, right? But
balance, dichotomy.
Balance. Yeah, that's the key word right there. Balance. Yeah. Because there's always going to be someone more attractive, smarter, better in every. You're never going to be the best in anything.
Yep.
So just try and be the best. That's why you want
to compare yourself to you.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to be the best at anything, be the best at being you. Because you can't be the best at anything else. But just be the best at being you. And improve that day to day. That's all I got for that.
Before we move on to our final bias, I do want to say one thing about this when it comes to salespeople and excessive self-regard. The way that salespeople use this to their advantage is by telling you like, oh, wow, you're so smart. You're so attractive. You're so this, you're so that. Because then we start getting liking tendency too, which we haven't talked about yet. I think that'll be, we haven't talked about liking tendency. So go back and listen to Monday's pod. But that's when we start to do two of these things. We're doing excessive self-regard and liking tendency by telling you, you're so smart, you're so this. And then people start to fluff up, their ego gets involved. And now we say, and you could be even better if you had this.
Yeah.
And now these biases are starting to come in. Now you can see, shit, that's how they got that sale on me. That's how I walked away with this stupid box of cookies or whatever. It's because I fell for these tricks. But now that we understand some of these tricks, we can say, oh, okay, this is what they're using on me. And at least you can break that mental bandwidth and say like, oh, I'm escaping the matrix. This isn't.
It's not. So let's get on to our final
bias. And we'll do it a little bit more quickly, okay. But this is one of my favorite ones. It's reciprocation tendency. So we all have just this burning need to, if someone helps us, to help them back. It's really a tit for tat system. If you help me, I have a burning need to help you back in order to equal our debts. And unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of con men, a lot of business people will use this to their advantage, where they'll give you something that may be small, a small little token or whatever, with the knowledge that you will give them back whatever it is they request of you. And we can actually see this. There was Robert Cialdini, who is a leading psychologist and wrote the book Influence. He's also a professor, or was a professor at Arizona State University. He went around on campuses and he got a baseline for people to take a group of delinquents, like juvenile delinquents, and since he did it around a college, some amount of people actually said yes. If you did it in the real world, no one would say yes. So now that he had this baseline, if I ask 100 people, 10 people will say yes, 10% will say yes to this. He then wanted to test reciprocation tendency. So sometimes what you can do for reciprocation is not even give somebody something, but ask for something huge and then reciprocate with something smaller. So what he would do is he would go up to these students and ask them, hey, would you like to volunteer your time for the next month, every weekend, you're going to give 2 hours to this not-for-profit thing, spending time with juvenile kids. And the person would obviously say, no, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, okay, fine. And now that person feels that they're in debt to the asker. So the asker says, okay, how about this? Could you at least take them to the zoo one time? And due to the reciprocation principle, since that person made a request and you denied them, you feel indebted to them, even though they gave you literally nothing. And then it was a substantially higher amount of people agreed to taking these kids, these group of juveniles, to the zoo because of reciprocation principle. That is how powerful this is. And we could think about this on the Serengeti when we were evolving. If you were the person that constantly took, eventually you get cast out of the tribe. If you get cast out of the tribe, you die. That is why this is so powerful.
Yeah. It's almost like, it reminds me of the Chris Voss technique of like anchoring high or anchoring low. You come in with a huge ask, crazy ask, and you don't obviously want that. But it's all about how you frame it, right? It's all about how the person interprets it, how they see it, right? And a lot of life is how you interpret things and how you react to things. So I love that. That reciprocation tendency is, that one is sneaky. Companies do that so much. It's so sneaky. So sneaky.
But you can do that too. I've used reciprocation tendencies when it comes to negotiation for pay. I want $120,000, even though I know the budget isn't there. Yeah. I'm like, we can't do $120,000. All right, well, it's going to be tough. But you know what I could do? I could make $104,000. And now I've reciprocated to them and told them, just so you guys know, if you guys are negotiating, if you go down to an odd number, it works much better due to other principles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, I think with that being said, I think we're ready to move on to our next segment. You all good to move on, Chris?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So this is the part of the podcast we do every Friday. It's called By Friday Feedback, Viewer Mailbag. That's basically, I can't explain it more than the title. Friday Feedback, Viewer Mailbag. Got it? I feel like every week I have to explain it, and I think I'm just going to continue saying the title. Just leave it at that. So with that being said, today's headline, it's a doozy. This one hurts me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. This one hurts me. This one genuinely makes me sad. I'm a 30-year-old loser with 50K. Oof. Buddy, oof. That's rough. Howdy, Fi Guys. I'm writing to you because I desperately am in need of guidance on a financial decision that feels like my last shot at turning my life around. Boy. Let me explain the situation a bit further. So, I am a 30-year-old loser, and I'm trying to be honest. I've made a mess of things over the years. My struggles with money management have been a constant source of stress and failure. I've never been good with finances, and unfortunately, my past have only compounded the problems. For several years, I've battled a drug addiction that has consumed my life, and it was a dark time that left me isolated from my family and my friends, with little hope for the future. During that period, I squandered any money I had accumulated, and the addiction is behind me now, thankfully. I'm grateful every day for my recovery, but my financial consequences still linger. I feel like a struggling loser trying to rebuild my life from the ground up. Let's pause real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Let's pause real quick. So
it's one thing to say, everybody has beaten themselves up once or another, right? You'd be crazy if you didn't, right? I've beaten myself up. Everybody has beaten themselves up. It's one thing to think it, to feel it. It's another thing to say it out loud, right? I think that's where my pain, my heart is just like, it breaks for this guy. Like, because we've all thought it. I've never said it out loud, right? I've never not only said it out loud, I've never written into a show asking for help. And he's being honest. And I love that. I love that. But that hurts. I'm so sorry. I feel bad for this person. What do you think, Chris?
So do I. No, he's called himself a loser 3 times. The header of his email to us was, "I am a loser."
Yeah.
Like, that's the header of his thing. And, let's go back to the biases and the principles.
Yeah.
Consistency and inconsistency principle or bias. If you believe that I'm a loser and you are saying it out loud, and even worse, you're writing it down. Now, if you say something, you can always deny that you said it. But if you wrote something down and said, "I am a loser," now you are truly beginning to believe it. And now you're going to start to find ways to be consistent with that identity that you created. Your thoughts create your habits. Your habits create your reality. Again, I think this person, he really needs to take a step back and stop calling yourself a fucking loser, because you're not a loser. You're a winner. And it sounds like you gave yourself a second chance. You overcame drug addiction. I have no idea what that's like. I have to imagine, though, that is extremely difficult based off the people that I have seen in my life get hooked on drugs and never come out of it. So you are a winner, and you need to start telling yourself that every fucking day. I don't care if you have to wake up in the morning, wipe off the mirror and say, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner. You need to start believing that, because if you keep on telling yourself that you're a loser, you're never going to pull yourself out of this. I don't even know what the issue is quite yet. I know that there's some financial issues, but like, if you keep on telling yourself you're a loser, you're going to create that reality. And it seems like you've already created that reality for so long. And it almost sounds to me like you're giving up on life and you're 30 years old. Like you said, this is my last shot. Dude, you're 30 years old.
Yeah. Like, honestly, like for me, like my life didn't start till like 18. And then it really started around like 24, 25, 24. And like, I'm just getting started, baby. Like, what are we doing? So let me continue. I'm going to continue with the letter.
Yeah, but first, before we do, congrats on getting clean. You are a fucking
100%.
superhero.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. Like the amount of self-discipline. Like, I don't think you understand. Chris gets in a cold plunge to train for discipline, right? You have that. You built it. Like, you had a goal of getting clean and you freaking did it. That's not a loser. That's a winner. That's a freaking winner right there. So let's continue on with his letter. Unfortunately, while we are hyping him up, he has not gotten the message yet because we haven't released the pod. So this is still past tense. He hasn't heard this yet. So
this is us talking to ourselves.
Yeah, basically.
You'll hear it later.
Yeah, that's accurate. So currently, I'm making about $10,000 a year working odd jobs that don't provide much stability. It's a struggle to make ends meet, and I'm consistently worried about the future. This year, my dad, God bless him, he gave me a gift of $50,000. His final attempt to help me get back on my feet to create a stable life for myself. I've already used a proportion of this money to pay for the rent for next year, which has given me some much needed breathing room, really. After settling those expenses, I have about $35,000 left.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
So again, if you were a loser, and if your dad thought you were a loser, would he give you $50,000 to help you get out of this hole?
Yeah.
It sounds like you have like one of the kindest fathers in the world. Like $50,000 is nothing to scoff at all. And your dad didn't give that to you because he thinks you're going to squander it. He gave it to you as a lifeline to make yourself a better life. Because he believes in you, because he knows that you could pull yourself out of this. And you need to believe that for yourself too.
Absolutely. You know, why didn't he give it to you when you were on drugs? Why did he give it to you now? Right? He believes in you now. He trusts you. And
thank God I didn't give you $50,000 when you were addicted on drugs. You probably wouldn't be writing this letter.
No, you'd probably be dead. Honestly, you'd probably be dead. Honestly. I think you need to take some inspiration from your dad, though. He believes in you. He trusts you. It's time for you to start doing the same about yourself. You need to believe in yourself. You need to trust yourself. Clearly, you're listening to the pod. Clearly, you're reaching out for help, right? That's two huge steps. Huge. Not to be understated. Like,
yeah,
the trajectory is going up.
How many people just listen and never take any action? You're actually taking action. You have separated yourself from the 99% of people just by taking action and asking the question.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've taken more action.
Yeah.
With the money already.
Yep. Not to mention you got the guts to write in and be honest. Brutally honest. Maybe too honest. Maybe too honest. Because you're not seeing the full picture, right? We're seeing a third person perspective, right? We're seeing wins, right? We're seeing losses, but we're also seeing wins, right? And the trajectory is it's getting better. It's getting better. I mean, once you've hit a low point, as you know, with drugs, and now you're out of the drug realm, right? You got some money saved up, right? You got next year's rent, put aside. He's coming back.
And I wonder if a lot of this also has to do with like the envy jealousy bias, right? Like he's comparing himself to other people. Like he's comparing himself to maybe his sister who's whatever, like 32 or whatever, and doing fine, or his friends or whatnot. But again, don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to being a better you. All right, I still get back to the letter and see where we're going with this, what he's going to actually ask us.
Here's where I stand. I'm terrified of making the wrong move with this money. My track record isn't great, and I've always managed to mess things up financially. I don't want to waste this opportunity. I want to make the most out of it and make a sound money decision that could change my life. This truly feels like my last chance to set things right and build a future I can be proud of. So I'm reaching out for advice on what I should do with the remaining $35,000 to ensure that I make the most of this opportunity. How can I leverage this money to create a stable financial foundation? I'm open to any guidance and suggestions you guys might have. Thank you for taking the time to read this and for any advice you can offer. I'm committed to making this work, and I am truly appreciative of your help. With new hope in sight, I strive to make things right because it's my last chance. I need to advance. How about that? I think I'm going to speak on this first, and then I want you to like chime in. I think most of his problem isn't finances. It's mental. It's how he sees himself, right? We've talked about it so much on this podcast today. How you speak is how you live, right? How you live is how you are. I'm worried about how he sees himself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
He's only seeing the bad things, the negative things, and he's zooming in on it. Like it's not like, yeah, I used to be a drug person, right? Drug addict, whatever. No, he's magnifying that, but he's not focusing on the fact that he's like, he should be super proud that he's recovered. I can't imagine much more. That's very, very difficult. He's focusing on the wrong things. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? What do you think?
No, I mean, I totally agree. Like this, a lot of it comes down to mindset. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a big money issue here, and the money issue has to do with him making $10,000 a year. Like it doesn't matter. That's going to always be an issue. If you're making that small amount of money, it's going to always be tough. But I think the reason that he said he only works odd jobs and stuff is because he thinks himself a loser. He probably doesn't think he can hold a stable job. He doesn't think he can do that because every time that he's tried, maybe he was addicted to drugs and he failed. And yeah, I know that's hard to fail, but you have to keep on trying. And now that you're clean, it sounds like it might be time for you to try to find a stable job. The odd job thing, I don't know what you're doing, door dashing or whatnot, or who knows what it is, but $10,000 a year is going to be really, really tough to make anything work.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're living on your own, which it sounds like you are because you have rent.
Yeah.
So I would say the first thing we need to do is stop calling yourself a loser.
Yeah.
You need to tell yourself every day that you're a winner. And we need to really shift the mindset. And I hate that advice because I know that when someone is down deep in despair and you just tell them, oh man, it's all just a mindset issue, it doesn't land. But I hope that you can hear us a little bit. Please listen to the last pod and this pod and understand what we're trying to say here, that you're the one holding yourself back. You have a set of ideas in your mind, and those ideas are not serving you. Those ideas are creating your habits, and those habits are creating a reality that I can't hold a job. I can't make more than $10,000. Shoot for the freaking moon. And at least if you miss, you'll be among the stars. Start saying, like, how can I make $1 million this year? Even if you don't make $1 million, can you make $50,000? $60,000? Even if you miss your big, hairy, audacious goal, at least we're striving for something more. But if you keep on telling yourself, I'm not worthy of having any more than this, then you're going to create that reality and you're never going to look for things to disprove that.
Yeah.
So first things first, we need to make more money. We need to find a better job. Make your father proud. It sounds like you've already prepaid rent for the year. In general, if it was another person writing in, should I prepay rent for a year? I would say no. But for you, I think that was a really good decision on your part. I think that was an amazing decision. So you can make good money moves because now for the next year, you know that your housing is taken care of. In general, would I make that recommendation to somebody else? Probably not. But for you, you have the wherewithal and the self-knowledge to know that if I don't put this money on rent, I don't know what I might do with it. So I'm going to put it towards the things that I know are. So now that your rent is paid, this is the big thing. Don't blow the cash that you have on stupid shit and discretionary purchases in the meantime. Focus on the necessities to survive. What I would use that $35,000 for, I wouldn't invest it. I wouldn't do anything with it. I would go out and try to find a better job. And if I need to have that money to help to feed me, to help to keep the power on, to help get me from point A to point B, put gas in my car, take the bus, whatever it is, I would use that money to go out and find a better job and focus on that. But if you keep on calling yourself a loser, if you keep on saying, I always make bad financial mistakes, then you're going to take that $35,000 and you are going to make bad financial mistakes. There's an old Ray Dalio quote that I've always liked. If you're worried about it, you don't have to worry. But if you're not worried about it, you do have to worry. You're worried about what you're going to do with that money. You're so concerned that you're going to screw up this $35,000. That's what shows me and makes me believe that you're not going to screw it up, because you're going to look for ways to protect it. Maybe in the past you've gotten money and you didn't care. You weren't worried about how the money was going to go. And then you went ahead and you blew it. And you wrote that story into its reality. But now you know that there is an issue and you're going to try to fix it. You're going to take the necessary steps to not make it a reality. So that $35,000, that is your lifeline. Don't spend it on anything that you don't need. Go out and find a better job. Make your life better. Maybe if we're going to take that $35,000 and invest it in yourself. Go to school. Go to some trade school. Use that money to put it into a thing that can be real and made tangible today. I would not tell you to buy like some masterclass on how to become a YouTube personality or how to drop ship or how to do anything like that. Become a plumber, an electrician, something like that we can have tangible results immediately the day it comes out. I think YouTube, all these other things are great, but right now that's not where you are. We need tangible results, not 100%. Hopes and dreams.
Yep. Spot on. I think it's spot on. The crazy part about it that I don't think he realizes is that while there are difficult times ahead, they can't be more difficult than the past. I really wouldn't.
I couldn't imagine what it was like for him to be addicted to drugs.
I couldn't either. You get yourself a good job, any job, above 10,000, right? Taking care of yourself, educating yourself and continuing on this path of improvement. I can't imagine a path where it's more difficult than the drug addiction, right? And I would use the drug addiction. I would use it, right? I would say any challenge that pops up, peanuts. It's peanuts in comparison. The path ahead is a lot brighter than the path that we left. It was a dark path, but you're on a better path now. And just by you writing in shows that there's a lot of promise in your future. And if you don't believe us, maybe you're like, these guys are full of it, right? Maybe we're wrong. Maybe your dad believed in you enough to give you a very large $50,000, right? You just got to believe in yourself.
Yep. And ask yourself, does this belief serve me? Does the belief that I am a loser serve me? Even if it's true, even if you are a loser, you're not. But even if you are, the same question still comes, and now what?
Mm-hmm.
And now what do I do with that information? Is it more empowering to believe that I'm a winner or that I'm a loser? I would say that being a winner is the way to go, because that's what's going to get you out of this hole. You have got this. You're an amazing human. I am so proud of you for being years sober. I don't know how many years sober you are, but congratulations for that. You have money. You have time. This is not your last chance. You got this, man. Just stick to the path. Remember, you get 1% better every single day. Due to the power of compounding, after 72 days, you are a 100% better person. It's the aggregation of marginal gains. Every day we get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And that's what makes you a superhero. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be the person that you want to be. But maybe in 10 years, you can wake up and be that person.
100%.
We underestimate what we can do in 10 years, but we overestimate what we can do in a year. Make that timeline a little bit longer. Work a little bit harder every single day, and you'll get where you want to go. I guarantee it.
With that being said, best of luck. You got this. And we hope to maybe hear from you again. So we're going to get on to the next segment. This is called Win of the Week. I cannot be any more descriptive than that. It is literally Win of the Week. Chris, would you like to go first on Win of the Week?
Sure. Yeah. So I will be leaving tomorrow to Pittsburgh, which I know, lovely, lovely Pittsburgh. And normally Chris travels to all the tropical areas.
Very jealous.
Why are you going to Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Why are you going to Pittsburgh, Chris? Well, we have a wedding going on this weekend for a friend of ours that we're very excited to go in. But the real win of the week comes down to the way that we're actually getting there and staying there for quote unquote free. So the way that we paid for the hotel for the 2 nights is every year, mine and my wife's Capital One Venture X card gives us a $300 credit to spend on hotels or car rentals or anything like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I am spending money to keep that card open, but the $300 credit is kind of like a free credit just to keep that card open. So we both use our $300, which is $600, to get us 2 nights at a very fancy hotel in Pittsburgh that we're very excited to stay in. Additionally to that, we have Southwest Companion Pass, which allows us to fly for 50% off. The real one of the week is that most people, when they get these invitations to fly all the way across, I mean, we're in Arizona, guys. So Arizona to Pittsburgh, it's not a cheap flight. It's Pittsburgh and it's in the middle of the city. It's not a cheap place to go to. So a lot of people who have gotten this invitation to the wedding, they can't make it. But due to the power of credit card hacking, of getting a little bit better, 1% better every day, we're able to go out and do these types of trips. And the power of financial independence is that you can do these types of things. So please learn from us.
Yeah.
Learn every single day, get a little bit better. I have taught and I will continue to teach everything that I know about all this stuff for free to you guys. So please just keep tuning in, keep telling people about the Fi Guys. If you're getting value, let us know and let other people know so they can go along with this journey with you too. So Dom, what's your win of the week?
So my win of the week is, as some of you may or may not have known, is I got a new job recently. And I was, the feeling of a new job, you come in, you're a little bit nervous, right? You're a little bit nervous. You feel a little bit awkward. I was welcomed with open arms and embrace. And it was really a beautiful experience. And I finished training and everything the whole week. And I got moved to where I'm supposed to be in the company. And a little bit of a drive. I will not deny that. It's definitely a drive. And I would like to work closer, but everything has been good with that. And it's been interesting to see how like the corporate structure is in the hierarchy and how you can move up and all this different stuff. And, I came in with the idea of, I started at this position, right? And we'll say position X, that's the position I want to get into, right? So in a few months, I can, kind of apply for that position, right? Life is so interesting about, like, once you get in, you kind of see how things are. And for a long time, I worked for myself, and I still do when I'm not at work. I do my own thing, right? I've come to understand that the position I initially wanted, right? Decent pay, right? Great benefits. I won't deny that. Decent pay, great benefits, all the fun stuff. And it's like 44 hours a week, right? I'm working 30 hours a week. I'm like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Sometimes an occasional Friday, but I've learned that I value my time a lot more than I thought I did. And it's weird. I'll say this, and I don't know how the people are going to take this, but when I was working for myself, I felt like the richest guy in the world. And now that I have to answer to someone, and I'm actually making more money, I feel a lot more poor. And it's so weird. I'm like, damn, I knew I valued my time. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy what I do, right? I enjoy the people I work with. They could be total tools, right? Everybody's had that one person, right? These guys are great. Everyone's actually really nice. So it has nothing to do with them or the business. It's all me. So my win of the week is kind of discovering how much I truly value my time. Chris and I were talking about this before I got the job and everything like that. And we were trying to frame it in the best way possible. And the way we kind of framed it was, now that I have less time to work on the business, I have no choice but to be more efficient. With more efficiency comes more progress. More progress could mean that less time at my traditional job, that I can replace it. So it could be a blessing in disguise, but I'm just grateful to have a job now and be working with great people. So that's my win of the week. I know that was a bit of a long one. I know Chris is sitting over there like, God damn, bro, wrap it up, bro. It's Friday. I'm trying to get going. I got to Pittsburgh tomorrow. I got to pack and everything. But yeah, that's my win of the week. So I can't complain there. I'm excited for the opportunity to continue growing and being my best self, man. Being my best self.
Well, good. Well, myself and I know the listener is going to be glad to see you continue to progress and be here for that journey with you too. As we both progress in our life, and we do it all together as a group, just not you or I, but you, I, and the listeners as well. We really are trying to create a community of people who aren't just pursuing financial independence to escape the rat race, but also to be able to finally dedicate their time to the things that matter most to them. And I can't tell you what matters most to you. That's something that you need to decide for yourself. And that's the beauty of this, is once your needs surpass your wants. I'm sorry, your wants surpass your needs. It gives you the ability to go out and do things not for the money, but for the satisfaction that you gain from them.
Yep.
So with that, thank you so much for joining us for Fire Friday Feedback. Please come back on Monday. We're going to be talking about part 2 of the cognitive biases that you need to be aware of to not lose money, marketing, and to yourself, most importantly. So please stick around. If you guys liked, subscribe, leave a comment for the algorithm. Let us know, which bias did you like the most? What's your one of the week? Were we too nice or were we too mean to our person for the viewer mailbag? I hope that we weren't too mean, because I try not to be, except for a few times I've been mean, but that's far and few between. So yeah, please tell a friend about the Fi Guys. If you're in a shopping mall or whatever, turn to somebody right next to you and say, "Hey, have you heard of the Fi Guys? You should definitely listen to them. They're a great podcast." And they immediately walk away because you're going to think you're crazy. But spread the word. Tell one person about us, and we'll see you here on Monday and next Fi Friday Feedback. And with that, later. This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.